For more on this now, let's bring in sports journalist and commentator Khanyiso Tshwaku. Khanyiso, thank you very much for joining us and good afternoon.
And good afternoon to the viewers.
Fantastic. Now, Coach Hugo Broos in his press conference yesterday said he wasn't completely satisfied with his side. What would make him a happy man tonight?
Look, it's a win. But also, if you look at how he's been able to juggle around his team, and you remember that you've got another Bafana team that is playing in the COSAFA Cup at the moment, along with the Sundowns players at the Club World Cup. One needs to realize that there is a juggle effect that he's actually working with at the moment, where he's able to test depth in one end, having depth tested in another end. So I think the issue of results for him isn't too much that's of something that he should worry about. But I think the key part is how are these particular players performing in the absence of his key starters.
Now, there were some eye-catching performances in that match against Tanzania on Friday. Kulumani Ndamane ended up winning the Man of the Match prize in his debut. Who are some of the other players who'd be hoping to impress Broos tonight?
Probably SABC has a bigger stake to claim, because one needs to remember that he's also quite behind the queue. When you look at his Bafana status, there are that right-footed centre-back position is a position that Broos is well stocked in. You've got a Grankikana, Motobi Mvala, and those are players he's generally preferred. So when those two come back, I mean, Motobi Mvala is also easing his way back to fitness for Mamelodi Sundowns at the moment. I mean, for Kulumani Damas, it's very important that he establishes himself as a left-footed centre-back, because Rushun Dortley is recovering from injury, and he's a player that is very much liked by Hugo Broos. So I think from the key defensive perspective, it matters. I think Ricardo Costa had a decent game last week on Friday, but I think also the pecking order behind Ronald Williams is also a position that also needs to be sorted out, because yes, Sipho Chain has established himself as the number 2, but look, and probably been one of the better goalkeepers throughout the season, but Cos through as the junior national team goalkeeper has excelled, and I think it was just about the time for him to make the step up and use that opportunity to play at a higher level.
Now, as much as some people would have put themselves in contention for places in the squad for the World Cup qualifiers a little later this year, as well as AFCON, is it possible for some of those players to play themselves out of contention?
It is, because also remember that there's still a set of qualifiers to come in September against Nigeria and against Zimbabwe, and those are two big games, which is why players actually now need to play themselves into a pecking order, because what Hugo Broos has done as a Bafana coach has been very clear in establishing a particular pattern of players that he knows will start, and the bulk of those players are currently at in the USA preparing for the Club World Cup. So I think for a lot of these players, it's a golden opportunity to put themselves in a position to see that they may not be part of the match day 11 or the match day 18, the match starting 11 or the match day 18, but put themselves in that wider 23 to 28 man group, so that in the event of injuries, they're able to then slot themselves in and be in a position to start.
And speaking of injuries, one of the things that he did allude to in the press conference yesterday was the fact that they didn't make the most of their opportunities in front of goal on Friday. Is there time for him to find a clinical goal scorer and somebody who's an able replacement should anything happen to his first choice and starters?
No, there is. Remember that by the time the qualifiers will then roll in, there would have been, hopefully, there would have been league action that would have started towards the middle or the start of August. That will probably then give players some match fitness to sort out any other holes that will be there. I mean, if you look at also a lot of the Pirates players are actually carrying on the break now. Evidence Mafopa has been a key man for Hugo Broos at the moment. So I think a lot of those striking questions will probably be well answered. I mean, you've also got a Tebas one is also working his way back to proper match fitness, having traveled with Sundowns to the Club World Cup. So I think with the guys who are missing from the squad at the moment, probably they are the ones who will be in a position to answer those questions. But I think for the guys who are currently in the team at the moment, they've also got a golden opportunity to actually strike gold for themselves.
Now, Broos has talked up Mozambique in the lead up to tonight's game. They're doing really well in the World Cup qualifiers, second behind Algeria. What can we expect of them and the challenge that they'll present to Bafana tonight?
It's probably the challenge Bafana needs, where it's one thing playing against a team that probably does not have World Cup aspirations, but when you look at a team like Mozambique that has actually played well, not just in the World Cup qualifier, but actually have done well in the COSAFA Cup, you then also realize that their goals, aims, and outcomes are pretty much similar, and probably Mozambique may not have the kind of skill that Nigeria possesses at the moment. But they're probably asking similar mentality questions, because this is a Mozambique team that is also chasing World Cup qualification. Will probably look at this game as a game where they need to just rough up to clear up their rough edges ahead of that particular of their set of qualifiers. In the same way, South Africa want to clear up their rough edges, leading into the last 2 rounds of qualifiers.
All right, Khanyiso, so we're going to leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on SA Today. That was sports journalist and commentator Khanyiso Tshwaku. And on that note, that is all that I have for you on SA Today.